we have a music room in our house with a big sign that says "Up all night to get lucky," which is sort of our musical and life mantra.
This is Jason Shafton, and welcome to Frank Growth, the podcast where we talk about the complexities of business and personal growth, and talk to couples navigating the delicate dance of building a family and a career. As always, I am joined in life and on this podcast by Alyssa Fox, my beautiful and talented wife and life partner. How are you feeling?
Great. I just ordered a dozen cookies. And
How many of the cookies did you eat?
2.
How many more will you eat today?
Unclear. I don't know.
Okay. Are you saving any of the cookies for me?
Yeah, you can have a couple bites.
Okay. A couple bites. Got it. Speaking of sharing cookies, in this episode, we are going to talk to Sam and Brian Rose. They are the co-founders of Mvnifest and have nearly 2 decades of cookie eating experience across finance, marketing, and managing consumer brands. Samantha started her first brand in the tiny kitchen of her New York City apartment in 2012. She built that company, GIR, from a single handmade spatula into an award-winning internet-famous housewares brand. Brian joined GIR in 2017 as CFO, and they sold it to Pattern Brands in 2021. Before joining GIR, Brian spent a decade working at Blue Mountain Capital, a debt-focused hedge fund in New York with $20 billion in assets under management.
That's so fun that, they started the company in their kitchen. We actually got married in our kitchen.
It is cooler now to start a company in a kitchen than in a garage.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to start a consumer brands company, you want to start it in your kitchen. If you're going to start a tech company, maybe you still start it in your garage.
That's fair. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to talk to them. I mean, they've been partners in life and business for about 20 years now, and I've never done anything that long. So I want to hear exactly how they do it.
I imagine that it is harder than maybe they make it look, but I'm curious to learn what their tricks are, and I think they've built like 8 or 9 companies together, so they have something figured out. Should we interview them?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Sam and Brian, welcome to Frank Growth. Thanks for joining us. We're super excited to hear your story and learn more about how you balance work, kids, and life. I'm really excited to have you guys, and just tell us a little bit, like, how do you do it? How do you make it all work?
I have such a practiced answer to this. Like, I know exactly what my truth is, so I'm going to let Brian go first.
Well, we have a music room in our house with a big sign that says "Up all night to get lucky," which is sort of our musical and life mantra. I don't know. I feel like it's a lot of late nights sometimes, but we've gamified a lot of it, and it feels like we're playing a big game together.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think in that regard, our approach to balance, or at least speaking for myself, my approach to balance is a little unexpected, because to pull this off, several businesses under one roof, 3 kids, working with the person that you love, I've had to remove all balance and just be very zen about it. It's like I'm having fun all the time. I'm working all the time. Fun and work are the same thing. And I think I believe that it truly, it's not a trick. I'm not trying to convince myself that that's the truth. That's just my approach. And then, but I mean, again, Brian might not love it. Because there are moments where I think for you, Brian, something resembling a more traditional balance, or at least like a dividing line, would make you very happy. I think it's a little more comfortable for me to be in this circus.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a like Saturday morning cartoon, like childishness in me. Like Saturday morning, I like to get up and make a coffee and like just kind of putter. And maybe it's like I want to work on something in the garage or on the car, or build Legos with the kids, and then by 11 o'clock, maybe my brain is awake enough that I want to work on the problem that we've been working on. But I am there's a little bit of that childhood, like I'd like to take Saturday morning and not work.
You should
I
expose
think
what's right behind you in your
Oh yeah,
room.
well, so right, Saturday morning is a F1 time. So either we're watching the
yeah,
race or we're in the race virtually.
Nice.
nice, amazing.
Yeah, I
I
think
love the.
in our
Go
balance,
ahead.
I commit to bringing the whimsy. That's what
Yeah,
I like to say is like I am the whimsy. Like if
yeah.
there's no
If
whimsy, then
Sam is
what's the
also
point?
working at 6 a.m. on Saturday, and you're waiting until 11 to start, I think Brian that Alyssa relates to your position more, and I'm in Sam's camp. Oh, it's another day, and there's work to do. Better get started.
Let's go.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure why I feel that way, but I do feel. Well, we talked about gamification a little bit. I feel recharged by playing games. You know, whether that's I'm building Legos with the kids or we're playing a game of Risk, uh, tackling a different mental problem that's not work related. I feel like actually helps jumpstart me when I come back to work because my brain has been engaged in a different way, and it makes me happier, but also more effective.
The whimsy point that Alyssa made resonates with you too. That there's got to be fun, there's got to be games, and I like up all night to get lucky. Although I want to make many other jokes about that, but I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that alone.
There's more than
But
one reason
speaking of
it's up
getting,
on the wall, Jason.
yeah,
Well,
well,
I
you
mean,
have
you
three
have
kids,
kids,
so
I know.
so
yeah,
conceivably
yeah.
at one point it meant that.
Yeah.
Conceivably.
So
It did.
speaking of getting lucky, take us through the origin story of your relationship and your journey into business together.
Well, we met in college, uh, which means that we have we've grown up together before growing old together, which is pretty fun. Um, Sam was a cute girl in the Chaucer class, asking really smart questions in the front of the room, and I thought I need to find out more about this girl. We met in college, and we became really good friends really quickly. And I think I think this is true for a lot of great relationships, personal, professional. Has been an amazing foundation to build off of.
And we pulled a lot of
And
all-nighters because we were studying in college. So the
Right,
theme of staying up all
got
night
it.
to
so much
get
studying.
lucky started very early on.
I think you guys made your own luck though, from what I'm learning about you. So the all nighters and studying hard and building together, you now have many businesses. So how do we get from she's in the Chaucer class and I think she's cute and she's asking smart questions to let's go into business together as well as life together.
Well, we passed the class and we graduated. We got lucky, had a kid, and then another and another. And we had really different beginnings to our careers. I did not have a good beginning to my career at all. Brian had a spectacular rocket ship ride. And so for a minute, I was kind of like looking at Brian and his career, and I'm like, what am I doing? I hate my job. I don't like my boss. And I was just kind of I was in New York as a Southern California girl, kind of away from a lot of what felt like comfortable or home or things that I might have, as a geriatric millennial, fallen back into really easily, those habits and comforts. And I was like in the big city, and Brian's got his huge career. And I was like lost for a second, but I knew what I loved. And on the weekends and for fun, we just started doing those things. And that one of those things, the first of those things, turned into a business. And the business got its kind of theme.
Is this
And
GIR?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And Brian and I had been kicking around a couple of ideas so we did a lot of stuff for fun on the weekends that were really active. And then we also liked to cook. So those were kind of our two balance points, like cycling and cooking. And Brian had a great idea for a blog about gear, like GEAR. And it was gear that gets it right. And we would obsess over whatever the coolest piece of bike gear was that we need, would make it so much faster or whatever, like the cool thing. And thought, we're going to find what the best thing is and curate it. And we'll tell people about it because we spent all this I don't know. It was a blog.
It
But
was
in
either
2010,
pre or right before Wirecutter. Like, oh, you know what would be great is an idea, what if we just
yeah,
had a
it
curated
was
list of the
really
best
early.
of,
I
as
mean,
my
the
point of
internet
view,
was
your point of
young.
view. Yeah.
Facebook started in 2007. We graduated college in 2007. Like all of these things are like, oh, ha, 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 like that's been done 100 times. But performing blogs was not like a thing at the time. So we thought, well, we're going to make a blog. And then I had this like, wait, I have a prop. I had this idea for a cool spatula played on the other thing that we love to do, which was cook. And so I was just like noodling, no pun intended, for weekends at a time on how to make a one-piece silicone spatula. Made a prototype in the kitchen. That worked. Thought that I could turn it into a small brand. Crowdfunding was having its moment at the same time. So I launched it on crowdfunding. And that was a way of bringing kind of fun and joy into work. And so that became my new career. And I thought, I'm just going to give this a try. Like it's a dumb little spatula, but like, how hard could it be? And what's the worst that could happen? And I think, Brian, you should tell the next part of the story from the boardroom perspective.
Well, so I was a know-it-all finance person, and at that point in time I was spending my time looking at retail and consumer companies from an investment perspective, if we should bet against them or bet on them. And I thought I knew all this, secret sauce about balance sheets and cash flow optimization. And I said, we should just make this in one color. What are we talking about? Black is good enough for OXO. Black is good enough for us. And I was pretty adamant about it. And I was adamantly wrong, because that November, the New York Magazine holiday gift guide comes out with, 4 or 5 or 6 pages about all the best gifts. But the centerfold spread, the entree to the whole thing, was a picture of 10 spatulas in this rainbow stacked on top of each other. Sam sort of held up the magazine and said, "We're making it in a rainbow." And I learned very quickly. It was an amazing moment, because I learned right away that either my instincts or just like the numbers in the spreadsheet might be completely wrong. And the cute girl from Chaucer has the answer, and I should listen to her. And I have to make the math work for the product vision and not the other way around.
Yeah, but also wives are always right. So, she has a lot going.
I should
How
have
many
known
kids
earlier.
did you have at this point?
Well, we had one in the oven.
One.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were pregnant. How pregnant were you?
When I started playing around, when I started prototyping, I wasn't at all pregnant. But by the time
So the thing had legs by the time you started growing legs.
Yeah. Yes,
Got
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I maybe sort of very traditionally thought, this is maybe a cute thing I can do from home. Like,
Right.
I'll have my baby and I'll have my little brand and I'll maintain my website. Shopify didn't exist at the time. Like, I'm going to build a Magento site. I know a little bit of HTML.
You were like, who needs MLM? I got this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Arbonne's never
Yeah.
forgiven me. So I think I probably did have some picture in my mind for how that might work out. And I think what I underestimated at the time was my own ambition, honestly. Like, it started to grow and I was like, oh, guess what? I need to multiply myself. I have to hire a person to just get done what needed to get done in a day. And
you felt the heat from the kitchen. You were like,
did. Yeah,
that's right. That's it.
Yeah.
And then you
so
were
I put on
hooked.
my chef's hat. And
So were there any moments in that trajectory where you just completely had to say, like, shut it down, I'm making this compromise, that like you really didn't want to make? Because like presumably at some point you're delivering this baby and there's also business deals and opportunities happening. Like, how did you guys kind of function to balance that? Like, Brian, were there any points where you were like, nope, shut it down for a minute, you are gonna just like transition to motherhood right now, lady, you are in diapers, like calm down?
No, definitely not. No, because there's no. I mean, Sam's a force of nature. There's no. That's like telling the tide to stop.
Yeah.
It wasn't an argument, but maybe
I
that's
like
because it
that.
was so much of a foregone conclusion.
I think also importantly, it was a personal and creative expression of like something that you had in your mind that you were now making a real thing in the world, and that's something that we as a family unit and as a couple that we need to just support and make happen, and not say, well, we got to dial it back. But I still get to leave the house and go to my office and go to my job. Like that wouldn't have worked for us.
I went to a trade show on my due date, but that was fun. Like that wasn't like, oh my gosh, I think, and this is a privilege that I've created for myself. And I'm acutely aware of it. I get to make a lot of the decisions. And I think that's part of why I can achieve that kind of full suspension of disbelief that it's all fun, because it is. Like telling everyone at that trade show that it was my due date. I was super obviously pregnant. Like that just made me giggle. They were like, why are you here? I'm like, well, I don't know. I'd be sitting on the couch eating ice cream instead. Like I get to talk to you fun people. And it was like that, it was not an imposition because I was making the choice.
Yeah, it's what you wanted to be doing. That totally makes sense. I mean, in the recovery room after delivering our first, I think we were signing papers to finalize buying a house.
Yeah, there you go.
So, yeah, like we just kind of looked at each other and we were like, are we going to really do this right now? And we're like, yeah.
What else are we doing? We're in
We
diapers.
could use the extra space.
We're already stuck in this hospital room. Like, what else do we have going on? And like, day, night doesn't really make any sense anymore anyway. So,
I think what I'm hearing is that the Sam and Brian framework is not or, it's and. It's like we're not going to do this or that. We're just going to do this and that, and we're going to do all of it.
That's
Is there anything that you're like, we're not going to do that? We're crossing that off. We can't.
We haven't found it yet. I don't think.
Well, it depends on whose idea it is. Because if it's an idea I have or Brian has, the answer is usually yes. Because we have a very copacetic opinion on what is good things, or like what constitutes a yes. There's plenty of other people who come to us with ideas and we're like, nope, will not be doing that. So it's not like we don't have a picker for it. But I think there's a lot of very quick synthesis that goes on for us individually and then also collectively around things to do being a good use of our time that acts as like a perfect filter. If we both think it's a good idea, it's already passed through a lot of filters to get to it. So I think that's what allows us to not become overwhelmed by the and.
Sam, would you say that you do a lot of research in gearing up to make those kinds of decisions, or do you rely pretty solely on like instinct and gut, and then Brian brings in the research?
Brian brings in Brian always got better grades in school. Brian did his research and I just wrote poetry.
But that's beautiful. It's like it's the words and the music. Like there's yin and yang of that. There's an incredible amount of complementary stuff going on there.
Yeah, I think I like to think of myself as informed, but if it was a binary characterization, I am a gut instinct flyer. Like, don't need instruments, just got my.
Is the colored spatula the craziest idea you've had where you were right, or is there another one that's even crazier?
Ooh, Brian, you have to answer this.
It's not the craziest, I don't think. I think you've been right about a lot of things. And I think that's the interesting thing, going back to what you said, Alyssa, where there are one of the challenges with the research and the data is that it's hard to incorporate things that aren't there yet. It's very backward looking and doesn't incorporate things that someone has dreamed up or has a new way of thinking about. So we were a kitchenware company in 2019 and 2020 with some amount of stock, and then COVID hit, and we sold out of every piece of cooking utensil that we had in 30 days, and there was no way to get any more because of all the reasons. And Sam said, What if we made masks? People need masks. Can we figure out a way to use our silicone equipment and buy filters and attach them together? And can we sell? We don't have any more spatulas, but people have that. But what people need right now, best thing we could do for the world is provide PPE. Could we do that? And we did it in like 30 days. There's no way I would have, my spreadsheet says we're out of stock. Let's reorder. I'm looking backwards at the historical data, and I'm not necessarily thinking about with the capabilities we have. And this kind of brings us to where we are now in our business. With the capabilities that we have, what's something new that we could do? And that's where I think Sam is really excellent.
She sees the future. I find that Alyssa does this often too. She predicts what's going to happen next. And I'm like, no, that can't possibly be what's going to happen next. And of course it is exactly what happens next. And I think that's a special set of skills and something that cannot be learned. It's just you either have that instinctually or you don't. Right?
It's mother's intuition. Telling you.
Yeah, sure. So speaking of motherhood, are there specific values, principles? You have 3 kids and you have like 8 or 9 companies. So what have you learned from being parents that has been beneficial in business? And what have you learned in having all these companies that has been beneficial in having kids?
I think one of the values that we have in common and that we've tried the most to instill in our kids is generosity of spirit. And I don't know that that's like a phrase that's in the common lexicon, but I think everyone can intuit what it means. And it means a lot to us as a family. Like if they can get through all this, and if we can get through all of this as parents and as business people, just inhabiting that value in everything that we do, then like it can't fail. Well, maybe it could, but I don't think it will.
Maybe it's not that you can't fail. Maybe it's that through failing, you learn more.
Sure.
But also,
and you get better.
Yeah.
Also at a personal level, some amount of success is guaranteed, because that's like,
Yes.
that's
what I mean.
I think we're establishing a high bar for them with that phrase. It's not always easy to live up to, but if they can accomplish that, I think they'll be hopefully successful in their either business career, artistic career, academic career, whatever it is. But that will enable them to be successful in their personal career.
Yeah, and they taught that to us because I think we were able to articulate, the words and then be good guardrails for them or help them find direction toward what appropriately reflects generosity of spirit in any given situation. But watching them grow from being such little people to kind of little bit bigger people now, the moments when I admire them the most are the moments where they nail that for each other primarily, and then for us and for themselves and for the outside world. And in that ripple effect of just holding that value. I mean, I think that you can learn that lesson on the playing field of business, but watching it blossom in a little person is so much more instructive, and wanting to help that grow. And you're like, oh, that was the choice that you just made was wonderful. And wouldn't it be wonderful if you could keep making that choice? And if I could help you learn what choices you make are yes in that box or not. And I don't know that I necessarily would have been able to articulate for our business or for our colleagues that was such a deep value of mine without learning it from my kids first. Because we have the opportunity together. It's our job to guide them and to help them find and be able to self-reflect enough in order to find out what their values are. And I'm not anyone else's parent. So it's a little, it's harder. It's not necessarily my job to create values in anyone else, even though I can be a good partner for values in other people. And I can make hiring and resourcing decisions and the other hard decisions with that as a guide. But for no one else in the whole wide world is it my literal job to instill value. But I think doing it with our children, because it's not just us into them, but watching that blossom in them has helped me understand that I might be able to offer that myself in business, and then I might be able to draw it out of other people. And that would be like an incredible outcome, better than any financial outcome that could ever happen for being a business owner or a leader or the person responsible for creating jobs or whatever. It's like, if I've created a place where people can share values and be happy, and oh, by the way, we happen to make some money too, and everybody can have dinner. Like, it's such a high anchor to be able to focus on.
Yeah, I totally agree. So in the ways in which I think parenthood can sometimes inspire people who are innately driven toward leadership to kind of build those communities where it's like it kind of unlocks like a new level of accomplishment where you're like, oh man, I know I can do this stuff now and I can do it with little people. Can I do it with big people too? Right? It's like, it is that kind of like, oh wow, I know how to parent. And you know what? Maybe more people around me could actually benefit from the parenting skills that I now have that I didn't have before. But in that sense, being the support system for other people in a sense, right? Like, is there a way in which you guys have figured out that you yourselves need support and you've been able to kind of structure that support around yourselves?
I think we've done it in part with just choosing where we live, in that we lived in New York for 10 years, and we had all of our kids there. And we moved to California when they were 4, 2, and 0, because to your point, we needed some help. And we're now living in Southern California around half a dozen aunts and uncles and Sam's 99-year-old grandma, who's still the life of the party. And I think what we've realized is that it takes a village, but not just for the kids. It does take a village for us too. I mean, really, we need that emotional and relational support in our community, and that's part of why we're living here now. And I think that has really helped us as a family. I think for sure in business, and I think just made us happier people overall.
I love the 99-year-old grandma that's the life of the party. When will she be available for our next podcast?
We could do one with Bubba too. Bubba's about to turn 90. My grandma.
Yeah.
Bring them, Bubba and Grammy.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It'll be great. She would say yes
to
that.
Yeah, I believe it. If she's anything like you, Sam, I imagine she's a fantastic character. She's a lot of fun. From an outsider's perspective, what would you say is the thing that makes the two of you, your story, the most unique and interesting?
I'll start. I think it's not unique, but it's definitely uncommon to be in a business partnership with your married partnership. I think the part that is about us, the part about us that is the most unique is that we have a really complementary but overlapping Venn diagram, both in terms of what we like to do and are good at, and we try to get to that quadrant, of the graph, but also where we can really and completely trust the other person to be the decision maker for their sphere. We give a couple examples already about whether it's product or aesthetic, but there are parts of the business where I feel like I'm the below average driver. That there's a joke about 80% of people think they're an above average driver, and that's obviously not possible. And through this experience, I've come to realize the parts where of the two of us, one of us has to be below average by definition, and I've had to realize where that's me, and that means that I need to just trust and give over decision-making responsibility to Sam for those things. And that's really improved the outcome, in part because the choices are better, but also because now I'm not spending my time thinking about that thing. It's in somebody else's better hands, and I can focus on the thing where I have an advantage. And I think that we came to that relatively quickly, and I think without a lot of ego. It's kind of a funny word to say in the context of a marriage, but I think it could be true for a lot of people, and I think it's been really helpful for us to release without ego the parts of the business where we don't have an advantage to the person that does.
Well, that was highly complimentary, and thank you. And I know that you know, but I'll say it out loud so everyone else knows. I feel the same way. There are things that Brian just does on lockdown, and I can ask questions about it, and I'm curious. I want to know what's going on, partially because the more information I have across the playing field, the better decisions I feel like I can make for the parts where I am responsible for the decision. But Brian's a machine. So I just know that like there are parts of our business and our family and life that are going to run in such a trustworthy way. And I don't have to look over my shoulder. I don't have to question it. And I think that's a big part of it too. And I don't know, maybe I'll say this with reference to business. I don't know how much we could abstract it to the relationship part, but there's probably something there. Like it is such a privilege for me to have parts of a business that I don't have to think about at all. I just completely trust. And the beauty of it being both our personal relationship and the business outcome is that I know that the decision that's right for the business is probably also right for our family. And so that's another level of trust that I can really rely on it makes everything faster because we don't have to have a boardroom meeting about half the thing. Like I just know that the decision Brian made is the right one. I can know, he'll tell me if I need to, but if I don't ask, I can trust that it went right. And that's a lot different than a lot of business relationships where it's like, what were your decisions? And let me weigh in on that. And what were my decisions? Let you weigh in on that. And there's no ego. There's plenty of things where from I have my emails. I'm like, Brian, look at this. Just drives him nuts. He's like, this isn't worth my time. But for the most part, for the really big stuff, which is where we use this tactic the most effectively, the big stuff in each of our spheres, the other one doesn't have to question. We can know, but we don't have to worry. And I think that allows us to be incredibly efficient and fast and broad in scope in our operations. Because I don't think that if you were questioning every decision or needing to be on literally the same page by viewing the page instead of just trusting that what was written was right, we would be able to run several businesses at once.
So with that being said, do you guys think that you make better business partners or life partners?
Better life partners for sure. I think because we're great at business together, but I think I have more like faults as a business partner maybe than I do as a life partner. Like in life, I'm pretty patient and I take out the trash. I do the most, I do some things I have to do. I'm like generally not a cranky person.
Epitome of a husband. Takes out the trash reliably.
It's on the list. It was written. I didn't make the rules. That's just what it is.
It's written in marital code.
Yes.
I'll show myself out.
But I'm not. So, and I'm a pretty easygoing person. I think in our personal life, and there are things about business that are different where I have more faults. I think as a business person, in terms of my just temperament.
That's not what I thought you were going to say, but I do think that you're right.
Well,
so you agree, Sam? Better life partners than business partners?
Well, I was giggling at first because we're such prolific business partners, and I really enjoy being in business together. And this is a hard one to answer because I think right now today we are doing a better job of running our business than having fun together doing anything else. And just business happens to be fun, so we're super lucky. If we were business partners and not enjoying what we were doing right now, I think I would authentically have to say, like, we did not get to date night last week. You know what I mean? Like we're being really good business partners for each other now, even though I think that philosophically being perfect life partners or wonderful life partners allows us to achieve that. But I think the spike that we're in right now is like a productivity spike for business. And do you want to go on a date?
I
Yeah, but
do.
I mean that's so sweet. I mean, that's kind of what the whole podcast is about, right? Is
Do you
like,
guys need us to wrap up early so that you can
Right.
go
yeah,
on
you
the
can use
date?
the rest of the
Maybe.
time to go on a date.
We won't have to
Yeah.
stay up all night. I know that.
Well, it's a good point,
There you go.
actually, because
Come on, Brian. She's saying you can get lucky and you don't have to really stay up all night for it. I got that.
We'll wrap this up.
Yeah.
If we were working this hard at two different small businesses, like you were running one and I was running one, and even if we had the desk next to each other, it might be miserable.
It would be
Because
miserable.
we wouldn't have the shared experience, wouldn't have the shared problems. I wouldn't get to say, well, I don't have to think about this 50% of things, and Sam can either do it or help me with it. It would just be my problem. So I have my pot of problems, and Sam would have this other bucket of problems, and we'd be working all the time, and we would be up all night, and we would not be getting lucky.
Do you have of your many businesses and many children, do you have a favorite business and a favorite child?
You can answer the first, but not the second.
On the second, you don't have to answer, but you could mouth their name.
I'm going to do it behind my hand. My favorite business is the business that is the combination of all of our businesses. And that's a scary truth because doing this all at once is really hard and very risky. And we are up all night to get lucky. And I think it is as much our greatest opportunity as it is the greatest existential threat for us as just business people. For better or for worse, and though we each have businesses that we spend more time at or that we're kind of better business unit leaders for, and Brian, if you want to color those in a sec, go for it. But I can say that any one of them individually would not be enough of an interesting challenge, even though I love them. And I love being a worker there. I love being a productive part of the team. I love leading the teams too. But the reason we're doing it the way that we're doing it is that any one of these things is almost too easy, which sounds like, I don't know what that sounds like. I understand.
No, I think
the
that's
whole is greater
totally,
than the sum of the parts.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. We were talking about this like on the way to a doctor's appointment just this morning. And I was like, oh yeah, well, I think like the interesting thing about Sam and Brian is probably the fact that like they would be bored out of their minds if they were doing anything different. Like I think something we joke around about all the time with like Jason and I is like, I love being bored and Jason would rather die than be bored. And for me, I like to fill my day with whimsy. So I'm like, what do you mean bored? I have all the hobbies on the planet. Like there's nothing I can't just like cobble together and be like, I don't know, I made this thing today. Like it doesn't have to be purposeful or fruitful in a financial respect. It just has to be something I want to do.
This really comes down to her recently getting a Nintendo Switch. That's all this is really about.
Yeah.
In defense of the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
I'll help you write a poem about that, Alyssa.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's a good one.
Before we jump into our rapid fire questions that Alyssa has for you, is there anything that you want to throw back at us? Anything you want to ask us?
I mean, can you come on our podcast and we'll ask all these exact same questions? Because
Yes.
I feel like you've heard us talk.
Invitation accepted, as long as we do it in the middle of the night so that we'll all be very lucky.
Innately lucky.
Yeah.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would you start a business together?
Yeah, we did.
We did.
This one.
Did.
Yeah.
Oh,
Winston
okay.
Francois. Yeah.
Well, fair.
So although I run it and run the day-to-day, Alyssa, like every important major decision, anything that we're going to do that's going to have like far-reaching consequences, she's a part of it.
Okay, let me rephrase it then, since I missed the mark. Alyssa, would you quit your day job to work here?
She's worked for me once before.
I have. Yeah.
Would you quit
But just
again?
to clarify, would you accept Jason as your first hire?
Would I hire Jason?
You know, if you were to come on board, presumably you need a pretty hefty title.
Yeah, I mean, would I overthrow Jason? No. I have always had the dream of being the most important but least well-known person in a room. And if I let Jason shove me out front, then I don't get to do that anymore.
I think the dynamic Alyssa likes the most is like CEO and then she's chairman or executive chairman. Like she wants to be the one making the $1 billion decisions while I'm operating in the $1 million decision level.
And I'm happy to like throw in my 2 cents, but like I don't need to be there for it. I got other stuff to do, like play my Nintendo Switch.
Your 200 billion cents.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, arguably my time is just worth more. So
Okay. Calm down. Awesome. Over to you, Alyssa.
I've unleashed a monster. Wait, Brian was going to
No.
say something.
Oh yeah,
No, I
Brian.
couldn't top that. No, I was no, I was thinking about there's an aspect in which there have been some parallels between your working relationship and personal relationship and ours. But interestingly, Sam is the CEO, but also is in charge of the $1 billion decisions, and I'm very much in charge of like the micro 1 cent decisions. And I can sort of see where you're both coming from on that.
Spreadsheet guy. I mean, look, everybody needs a spreadsheet guy.
You do, but I don't necessarily trust myself when the numbers get big enough, because that's where you have to have the vision.
yeah.
Law of
You
large
have to see the
numbers.
future.
Yeah.
Well, sweetie, you are so very good at all of the the numbers before and after the point. Like none of the $1 billion ideas. I hope I have a $1 billion idea one. None of the 8-figure ideas.
Can I please invest in any of your $1 billion ideas?
As long as it has a billion, I can help you out. It'll be fine. I can work it out.
But none of it would be possible without your absolute command of the big and the little numbers.
Well,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Yeah.
That's true. I'm the idea guy. And he makes it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Complementary skill.
Yeah. So rapid fire questions.
Let's go.
Are you guys ready?
We're ready.
Super ready.
All right, cool. So what are things that people have told you about building a business that turned out to be utter bullshit, like your favorite one?
I'll go first. Do one thing at a time. Like focus on just one thing.
Oh, that's a good one.
And it might be good advice, but it just wouldn't have worked for us.
Also, you're going to be your own boss, because that's so not true. Everybody else is your boss. And you have like 70 bosses. And they all manage your time. And they all deserve it. So no, you're not going to be your own boss.
And similarly, you can set your own hours. And you can. It's just
That
all
one
of
is
them.
my favorite. Yeah, I agree. That's a
All
good
the
one.
hours.
Yeah.
Not
It's like you
true.
can set your own hours because the hour part doesn't exist.
Because you'll never stop.
Yeah. So how do you both take your caffeine?
I take Brian's caffeine.
Yeah.
So you really queued me up.
When
for that
Alyssa and
one.
I started dating, she said, "What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine."
Oh, that's so nice. We share a lot. Are
Yeah.
you talking about sharing?
No,
Or
I don't have to share.
You're-
He has to share.
Appropriation.
And
No,
also
I have to
none
share.
of his stuff is his
Everything is
anymore.
hers.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's
Just like
it's
the
close
coffee
up
you're
front.
currently drinking.
I really knew how to set expectations.
So
I'm
caffeine,
getting the sense of that. Yeah.
my first accidental business was in college. I did like DoorDash for lattes, where I procured most of the raw material for free from the dining hall. I would take home milk and sugar and cups, and I would go purchase the beans, and I made lattes, and people could text me, and I would like bring them a latte at night or whatever. So I've had an espresso machine since college, and we've gotten new ones over the course of time. But I think one of the things that we look forward to every day is the first latte of the morning.
I'm already looking forward to it. Like,
Yeah, I'm already thinking about tomorrow
and the
morning.
next day.
Yeah.
Okay, so out of the two of you, who's more neurotic about being inbox zero or like not having any unread messages?
This is a 100 to 0.
I am at week 215, going on 16 of inbox zero. I only wish I'd started earlier.
My hero.
I have 7 years of unread email. I'm very sorry if you've emailed me and you're listening. It's not personal. I'm just
What's the number, Brian? How
it's
many?
it's hundreds, it's thousands. It could be,
Yeah.
it's
You know,
it's
you
so
can
much.
just press
The
mark
numbers don't
all as
matter.
read and you'll be at inbox 0 right now if you want.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
And
I
then
dare you.
it starts again tomorrow.
I do that like once a month. Right now, my inbox is 507,
That's a lot.
not including my work email. We're not going to talk about that. Okay. And so the last one, what is the most recent event that caused you to fully admire something about your partner?
I mean, it was like an hour ago for me.
Same.
We had a
It had
a
nothing
phone
to do with
call.
the piano room either.
It's an hour from now. But we had a challenging phone call with a retailer where we had to apologize for a lot of mistakes that were not ours at all, that were caused by a previous owner of a different company, and we're stepping in to come fix it all. And Sam handled that phone call where we're trying to fight for a retail slot worth millions of dollars of sales with like impeccable grace and command of the situation. And I just got to sit there and watch. It was great.
So kind. Do you think they're going to say yes? I don't know. We don't know the outcome, guys.
Tune in on the next. That's a teaser for the next episode.
Teaser
Yeah.
for the next episode. We're kind of the cleanup crew for stuff. So, yeah, we've been called in to help with a big old garbage dump. But the step one is to tell the warden it's going to be okay. Well, on that same project, since frankly it's been all consuming
Yeah.
for the past week, I couldn't have done that without Brian putting together a literal bonfire of spreadsheets, screen grabs from PDFs, and really bad unstructured data and information, like a go forward planogram that somehow materialized millions of dollars of sales potential out of trash. When I say bonfire, not exaggerating that much. So, and I think that's a good example of just it's like when Brian does that, my mind is blown. He could see through there's like a matrix and the spreadsheets here. And then like the truth is behind it. And we're all looking at it like this, going like, it's just finger garbage. And Brian looks at it like this and just sees like a fistful of something on the other hand. Dollars, fistful of dollars. And Brian's ability to synthesize information like that in lightning speed in a world where no one else, I don't believe anyone else in this situation could, I don't mean anyone else in the world, but like anyone else involved in this situation was just walked away, literally mic dropped and was like, somebody else's problem. Brian looks at it and he's like, oh, that's not a problem. That's a algorithm. And that is amazing when you do that. I wish I had that skill. Very, very glad you're here, because otherwise I have to go I have to take some Excel courses or something so I could go like this with a spreadsheet.
I love it. I feel like your admiration for his ability to like see into the matrix and understand the complexity of something and then get to the simple truth, while you're able to be the one that runs head on into the fire with the fire hose. That, it goes back to what you guys said earlier about your complementary kind of skill sets. It's an unstoppable combination. So I think that is a great place to end our story today with Sam and Brian. Thank you both so much for joining us on Frank Growth.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So I love that. I think for me, what stuck out in the conversation we just had with them was the concept of generosity of spirit. I think it's so beautiful to think about how they are trying to impart that value on their kids, and in return they're kind of getting that experience from being parents. Being kind and open and willing to share with other people without any expectation of getting anything in return. Like it's like a combination of altruism, but there was like the undertone of like, we're still going to build businesses and there's still capitalism here, but we're trying to do something really special and good, and bring something positive and full of light into the world. And I think that I just wish there were more people like Sam and Brian.
Yeah, I think I wish more companies were motivated by doing what's right for the community and lifting each other up in general, because I think that's such a solid but also hyper generalized kind of internal compass to keep you going.
Yeah. I mean, when she said that, you know, that's even more important to me than the making money, I think that jumped out for me as like, wow, these people are, they're just good hearted.
Yeah. I just kept having the thought of like, wow, she's like Khaleesi, but instead of the mother of dragons, she's like the mother of companies.
I think that's exactly right. And you know, there's no question that in Game of Thrones, Sam would end up on top for sure.
I feel bad that I didn't tell her to her face. I feel like we have to like make sure she knows. I'll have to text her now and tell her that.
You are
She's,
Khaleesi.
yeah, you are
Yeah.
Khaleesi. She's going to love it.
We'll tell her. It's
Or
fine.
maybe she's never watched Game of Thrones. That would be, I mean, okay.
She's busy. She works a lot, so she may have missed
That's
it.
fair.
We'll catch her up
Yeah.
on what's happening.
I'll give her the highlight reel.
Will you sing actually really quick? Will you do the theme?
Actually, I sang that during our first date.
Yeah, she did sing that to me on our first date.
Yeah.
The other thing that I loved about Sam and Brian that I can really relate to is the Venn diagram, where they like have the complementary skills and the things that they bring to the table together. I feel like you and I are the same way. And you know, I'm the kind of crazy workaholic. I'll do whatever it takes to get things done. And you're the idea woman who has the big picture vision of like seeing into the future. And I think the two of them, you know, Brian is like, can make sense of anything from a mathematics point of view, and Sam is like all art and like creativity and whimsy, which is you.
Yeah. I think that we both have our creative moments, though. I think the harder pieces of our relationship comes down to like having to trade off every now and again, where it's like, ooh,
Take turns.
yeah, you know, where it's like I have to believe in and support and celebrate the moments where you want to be the one driving the whimsy, because you know, back to that first podcast conversation we had, it's like I don't necessarily want to like ruin your light, and I don't want to like steal your breadcrumbs. I want to like keep making that happen for you. And so we have to figure out like who's going to be creative when sometimes, and like when are we going to lean in versus say like, oh, you know what, that's kind of a dumb idea.
We didn't get to talk to them about this, but I remember in another conversation we had with them where they talked about how they could make a 5-course meal without speaking to each other, and the effortlessness with which they trade off.
Well, it's probably the magic
kitchen.
spatula, obviously.
Yes, and the colorful spatula.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. I like what you were just saying, though, reminds me of our daughter who often will say, I can do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you just got to let the other person do their magic themselves.
Yeah. And I think it goes even deeper into like the concept of failure, where it's like, is a failure if you learn still failing? I don't know. Like, just because, you know, it's like the idea of like, oh, we'll shoot for the moon and you'll land amongst the stars, right? Like, it really is that, where it's like, yeah, I'm not going to like take away your autonomy or your ability to shoot for the moon. How sad that would be to be in a relationship where somebody's always trying to like rein you in. But at the same time, I'm going to make sure that I support you just like the stars, so that if you don't get to the moon, you still end up somewhere really great.
I know that I'm going to be up all night to get lucky.
Always.
Well, I think that is a wrap on Frank Growth. So thank you for listening. This is a Winston Francois podcast, and please don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts.